dots up here.
Like that?
No, these three dots. Pop out chat. And then you can click on the corner.
This corner?
No, just give me the mouse.
What? Okay. I thought, can I just make it bigger there?
Well, then take off the whole screen. It'll cover your end stream button.
Oh. I don't really see the end stream button anyways. Am I streaming?
Yeah.
Where is the end stream button? I don't really see it.
It's on the other page.
Oh. Well, you said it would cover the end stream button.
I'm gonna go lay down. I can't do this. You're live, but I'm gonna go lay down.
Well, I'm live. Have fun. Trevor has a headache. Good afternoon. Trevor has a headache and he just took off. So I'm solo today. For a bit. Well, Trevor just left. He has a headache. He bailed. So nobody here, but just me's. So wait for things to kind of load up. I got the screen and everything set up. Yeah, he woke up with a headache, so came in and said he can't take it. And then out he went. So off he went, and I'm here for whatever duration this will be. Okay, so, and the only problem I have is he can usually tell me numbers and where we're at in a specific time period. And okay, there's 10, 9, there's a number of people watching, so I can kind of get going, see people in here. I'm getting no audio. Oh, I don't, yeah. Huh. How did you not get audio? I see the audio working on my end. That's weird. And obviously the audio's working because Jill said, I'm sorry, Trevor has a headache. So, yeah. So I think the audio, well, I can see the meter too. I don't know why I was thinking that, as saying there's a problem, because I can see the meter bouncing in front of me. So I am getting audio. We are putting out a signal, so I don't even know how to, I guess someone can type to people and say, because I have an excellent connection and everything's rolling and everything's there. And I don't know what else to say. It's getting rolling. November 4th, 5th, and 6th at the Dons Camp along Peralta Road in the Superstition Mountains will be the rendezvous this year. Always put that in. So we'll be out there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We usually just kind of get up Sunday, pick up, clean up, say our goodbyes, and get out of there. But we'll be out there. Our special guest speaker will be Mr. Jesse Feldman, the Dutchman's Trail, the author of the Dutchman's Trail, and previously Jacob's Trail. So he'll be speaking. Peralta Road is not paved. No, it's a dirt road. It should be in relatively good shape. They should be grading it soon. We were just out. The amphitheater's cleaned. We just did a cleaning of the amphitheater. It's in really good shape. I'll have to post some pictures about that. But the amphitheater's cleaned up. Things are in good shape. The bathrooms look fine. We're going to spray for spiders and stuff here shortly. But yeah, the camp's in good shape. The road's in pretty good shape through the summer and the monsoons. But they should be grading it here soon. There's a few spots going through the washes a little rough, but a car can make it, no problem. And anything, pickup truck or anything like that will have no problem. Yeah, I don't even think there's a clearance problem. It's just there's a few ruts. So everything's good to go. The weather, the weather's been good. We're down into the high 90s and the mid 70s at the night. So the weather should be fine. We still have another month to go, over a month to go. So hopefully we'll be in the 80s, in the 60s for the rendezvous. So, yeah, the road conditions, and we'll probably mention it right up into then. We'll make sure we put something out, and then always you can go to Facebook to Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, and we'll have updates there probably if there's anything to be concerned with. Should be a sign at the pull off of the Lost Gold Mine Trail, pointing to the rendezvous, and then it's your next ride up the hill. And again, there is a video that tells you how to get there. So everybody welcome. Bring yourself some food. If you want to stay. The only thing I've told a number of people who've been wanting to show up is just don't. You can just sleep on the ground if you want, but just don't sleep in the roadway because there's not much light and people will run you over. So there you go. And there is now sound. Well, there always was sound. You just didn't have sound. So there you go. So the rendezvous coming up, and we're trying to get a number of people, and I'm not going to announce who all, but I'm trying to get a little program together that'll go a little earlier in the day, and we might do things a little change, a couple little things up, but it should be interesting, should be fun for everybody. It's hard to believe. I think this is the 17th, 18th annual, so we've kind of been moving along. It's hard to believe after all these years we still have it going. Yeah, no, don't sleep in the road. It's probably a good, common sense kind of thing. But you wouldn't believe it. People will park anywhere. And it was like the time I woke up and there was a truck parked out in front of my tent. And I was just like, who left their truck out here all night? And then we went to leave and the truck's still sitting there. And then we found Rick Gwynn was sleeping it off at home. They loaded him in a truck, took him home, and he left his vehicle out there. So greetings, Gil Gold prospecting in San Antonio, Texas. Y'all have a golden day. Bugging out, no sound. Huh, that's weird because some people are hearing everything clearly and other people aren't. So that's kind of, yeah, so he's kind of weird how the sound's not working for some people, but it shows I have a really good connection. So I'm just going to keep going with it for the time being and everything. So Trevor got me a nice setup, working a double monitor setup, and things are getting better. So soon, eventually, we'll have like commercials and everything. So anyhow, so the rendezvous coming up. Not much else. And then once the rendezvous is done, everybody will be back in the mountains. So that will be nice and interesting. Peralta County Park is not finished. I think they were supposed to open, I think, this fall. And we kind of went out and took a look. And it looks like they're far from finished. They probably shut down and didn't get much further through the summer with the summer heat and stuff. I know there's supposed to be campsites, and I know they're supposed to pave Peralta Road and all this stuff, and it's not happening. The paving of Peralta Road is going to be problematic because you're going to go right into the main season. Everybody wants to go in and go to First Water and those places, and they're going to have to obviously shut the road down, so that's going to be a problem. And then of course we talked it was a few videos ago, 5-6 videos back, we did the filming locations of the Superstition Mountains. Some information I got from there was I mentioned the fact that the Lost Dutchman Mine store is gone. It was dismantled, it was taken down. Unfortunately, there's no more access to the site, but the Lost Dutchman Mine store is gone, and that was because of the problem with the homeless people and transient campers and stuff who were just going out there in the properties and trash and everything. So because it was a danger to people and it was a fire risk and a number of other problems associated with it, they eliminated that there. So it's kind of sad it went, but it's also sadder that people don't respect other people's private property and the grazing rights of the cattle and so forth, and just figure they can willy-nilly do what they want. And it's kind of funny, the people that think they're protecting something are actually the people that abuse it, trash it, and make it worse. So there we go. Anyhow, so moving on from there, so we got the rendezvous coming up, and if you come to the rendezvous and you go down that wrong road, if you're shooting straight through and don't go up the hill, make the hard left turn, you will find yourself at the gate out there and all that. What else going on? But we had a couple more people missing. There was a woman that was missing that she was found, but that was up in the Cave Creek area. along the Spurcross Ranch Trail. She was deceased. But there was another gentleman, and I don't know if they found him yet. He had borrowed someone's car, went for an afternoon or morning hike along the First Water Trail. They're not sure of his destination. He did sign the logbook, but the vehicle was found there later, and he never came out. He's still missing, so I haven't heard an update of whether or not he'd been found. So that was posted by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department. Maybe I can bring that up. See, this is where Trevor's good, because I can always have Trevor bring up the cool information and stuff. But kind of be a pain in the butt to bring it all up now. Anyways, the gentleman is lost out there at First Water. They're not sure of the direction. Of course, Cayman Welch, there's still been no recovery that I've heard of Cayman Welch out there, and that's at the Needle Vista Point going down towards First Water. So a lot of people should be looking around. How's the music going? I got a lot to do with the music. I got an open contract right now, and I got to create something like, I think, 10 hours of music. So I have to get busy on that, and I've kind of been more in the idea stage. And then I realized, wow, with overdubbing and stuff, it's going to take me some serious time to do all this recording. So I need to, here shortly, spend a lot of hours putting that together. So, and then of course we got all this material. We have been on the archival side putting a lot of stuff together. We will start getting more film up in the archive stuff, and then the links and stuff that you can through the website, Legend of the Superstition Mountains.com. But and we'll have that stuff. And that's been a process, because we also enter the land of TikTok. Because again, we're trying to get some. I know, we always appreciate everybody that watches this stuff. There's about 1,000 people that'll watch this and watch the videos and stuff. And there's over 1.5 million of you that have watched all our stuff, and we appreciate all that. But you always want to get that younger crowd in there. And one of the areas we looked at, we weren't really popping with Instagram, so we started working at TikTok to see if we could drive a little young blood into it. Definitely would be good to kind of get that going. So that was an area we were looking at and trying to move into, and we've been somewhat successful. I mean, it's done pretty well. Picking up steam, and we got over 500 subscribers on that already, and kind of just shows you it kind of starts moving itself. And there's, we're not pushing millions and millions of people, but I always have my I always question that when people are, when it's definitely, there's stupid stuff out there. It's how many people watch stupid stuff, and how do the algorithms work and all that. So, but no, I'm always happy with what we do, because I look at it in the plain common sense of like how to reach people and so forth, and it's so much easier. Google Maps shows the Don's Camp in the road with the photos and everything. Yes, you can look up the Don's Camp there. We have that posted. You can go to the Dons of Arizona, has a website and so forth, and should have some information there. Please don't enter unless we have the gates open. That's the only time the bathrooms and everything are unlocked. It is private property, leased from the Forestry Service. It is the only camp in the wilderness area. It's the only thing of its kind. And I'm trying to work a lot to get other events and other things established in there, because it would just be cool to utilize it more, and more people get the opportunities in there. So, but a very cool place. Lots of area, pitch a tent and park and stuff. Please, everybody, do us a big favor when it gets in the evening. We all like to sit around the fire, and some people break out a guitar and stuff. But we had a group a couple years ago, I think it was, came in and brought in a sound system and started playing rave music and running lights. And they did so till about 1 in the morning, and they were really annoying. And I think we should have dispatched them. And we didn't. We were nice. But it was a grandson of a Don or someone like that came out. And it was kind of very weird. But, we always post it out there, and it's always set there for the Dons. And we always have the spot reserved for us. We thought, well, hey, kind of join us, guys, and stuff. We tried to be friendly. They didn't really. Dumbass hippies, right? By that age now, where they're dumbass hippies. So anyhow, as we continue on, and I'm not seeing a lot of questions and stuff. Last week we had an excellent show. We had a lot of people had questions, good questions. I know I had Woody in here and everything went great with Woody. I decided to break it up. Try next week to get Magnuson or DeLille in, one of them, and do something with them. I don't think they jump in and watch these that often. They'll kind of watch them after the fact, but try to set up DeLille and then Magnuson, and then Frank kind of was interested. I think Frank does watch these. I think he catches them after the fact, and I think he was a little interested. So we might be able to get Frank in too. We'll try to set him up over the weekend. So maybe next Friday's Frank. Once Trevor has them, I have questions. I always ask questions, but they have to be Lost Dutchman superstition questions. And then I wait. The delay is inevitable. Anyways, that's been a lot of it. There's always the research going on and popping up various different stories and accounts, going through audio stuff. And like I said, we managed to start archiving a lot of stuff of the Dons. The quality of the VHS, if you have old VHS, we've been changing that stuff, and it's really really tough because that stuff's fading and the tracking's going bad. So if you have old VHS tapes sitting somewhere, or VHS, C, or mini DVs, they go bad over a while. The tape will go bad, and it's unfortunate. So you got to get those copied and changed out and made it come digital. Do you know if Tom Collenborn believed Adolf knew? Yes, he believed he died on Blacktop Mesa. He did not believe the body was moved. He did not believe he was murdered. I can state that. If there was a way you wanted to irritate Tom, start talking about Adolf Ruth being murdered and the body being moved around. And Tom would either quit talking to you and just walk away, or he'd get really frustrated. He hated a lot of that. He knew a lot of people from back then. There's a lot to be said of mythology, of people who weren't there at the time, who came in later, and you build a mythology about something, and people write something, and some people read it in a book, and then it just continues to become, well, that's the story. That's what happened. And Walter Gassler's whole thing, and about the body of Adolf Ruth being moved and a bunch of stuff like that. Walter Gassler, I'm sure, was a nice guy and everything. But again, someone made a great point once, and I don't know how familiar people are with Walter Gassler, but the manuscript is where a lot of that came out of, the body being moved and the murder and stuff. And I think the manuscript came out after his death in the early 80s. But people pointed out, if he was friends with Tom and Bob and he wanted to go in the mountains with them, why didn't he wait with them? Or, there was more connection with them. There wasn't that much of a connection with them. There wasn't that many people that knew him that well or so forth. So there are people that say they were his best friend. But it's always to be best friends with someone who's dead and doesn't have a lot of friends, right? Because then you can make up a lot of cool stuff. So safe to say Abe Reed didn't pack Adolf around. No. Abe was a good guy. He was also known to be teller of tales. So, well, and you got to look at it, as a lot of these guys would sit back there and they came up with their own versions and stuff. They liked the attention, and people would come in and talk to them, maybe slip them $20 or $10, or slip them some food, and that's what they did. But yeah, they're Milton Rose, Abe Reed. There's a lot of them had a lot of stories, and Ted Cox had his own versions of things. I think in his is an Adolf Ruth kidnapped and held for a period of time, and all. The decomposition of the body is he died shortly after he went in the mountains. Do you have any pictures of the Palmer Mine? Yes. You can get pictures today. You can go up to the Palmer Mine. But there are pictures of the Palmer Mine. I can't remember what was it called before that. But the Barclays, Dr. Ralph Palmer married, is it Anne? He married one of the Barclay daughters. And then the Barclays, because they had the grazing rights when Palmer's mine was done, they used it for a water hole. It filled up with water, and they used it as a well for cattle. So it's still out there. I don't know how much of it remains. It's been a long time. But, yeah, the Palmer mine, everything's still out there. I got schematics of it, of what they dug and where they thought there was still producing ore. There would be producing ore. And I don't think they ever went that route. Tom knew a lot about that, but that was probably because of his connection with the Barclays. And he'd been out there when it had been somewhat still dry and open. But, yeah, the Palmer mine, there's pictures of it. It's amazing how many pictures there are of a lot of things. But and Tom probably had the best collection of photographs. He probably had several 100,000 going back into the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, because he even had his father's photograph collection. And Tom was doing quite the job of. It was very difficult because he was trying to release them on Facebook. You could always go to Tom Collenborn's Facebook page and see a lot of stuff. But he had gotten a couple 100,000, I think, into the computer and was trying to slowly push those out. I'm sorry, am I pulling back? There I can. I can push the yellow. But yeah, Tom had a lot of photographs and a lot of stuff in slides, and he was converting. And unfortunately, Tom passed away before that all got done there and all. So there you go. All right, so that being said and done, kind of answers that question about Tom, but in the Palmer Mine and all that stuff. And I'll look for something there. I know there's photographs of the Palmer Mine around. Nothing significant as far as what they brought out of that. How can I get a hold of the schematics of the mine? I'm sure you mean the mine. It should be online. If you go, there's a lot of the mining data and a lot of the historical information concerning a lot of this stuff is available online through the state of Arizona. And what you'll find is a lot of letters, papers, and stuff concerning it. I'm trying to remember. It's a government site, obviously, but it'll have like detailed documents of when they were working the mine and who owned the mine and succession like that. So you can usually find a lot of that stuff. I would try just looking up that. Sometimes there's links through the Forestry Service or the Bureau of Land Management, or the Department of Agriculture, and I know I have a file somewhere that there's a file on each mine in the Superstitions that they have a documented history in the of the mines in the Superstitions, letters and petitions and stuff to reopen mines and stuff. And I do know that's one of them, but I know Tom gave me a map, and I'm trying to think of where I might have got it and seen it otherwise, but I have one of, it's the schematic of the Palmer Mine and what they were doing. It goes kind of straight down, so there you go. But it is out there, and I'll try, that'll be something in the archives. I'll always try to remember this stuff, and when I run across something in a file, I'll give it to Trevor, have him load it up and put something out there on the website. Because we went into the TikTok realm, and we still do this, and we still got to put Chasing Legends, and we're still putting episodes and finalizing that, because remember, COVID basically screwed us big time up, and so we got so much done, and then we had to pull back, step back, and then now we're actually starting to put OTFs together, which is difficult because we're having to go back and look and review, because you want to talk about it, you're in the present, but where I'm having to go back and look at something and then follow myself and then talk in the past. So we're getting those 12 episodes and then what comes after that together, and that involves taking the time. So, you know, but yeah, so we'll try to get that. I'll keep that in the back of my mind, and I just trying to think. I just saw it recently too. I'm trying to think of what I just saw it in, because I have a big collection, obviously, and files and stuff, and just recently I was looking through it. I'll have to look at the Palmer Mine file. I'm trying to remember if it's listed under the Palmer Mine or something else, but you should be able to find it. The government did a lot of studies and stuff on it. I did read in colors that Tom led an expedition to trap something to do with Ruth, Trap Canyon. So yeah, Tom would take people out to places and stuff. So, and nothing like that. And he'd always, in his books, he had a certain way, and I envy it. Tom had a way of answering. I don't know what I'm hearing. I'm hearing like a horn or something, like a semi-horn. It's very weird. But Tom had a way of addressing something that if someone believed in it and he thought it was BS, he could make it sound like he was with you and be very respectful and kind without ever saying he thought as much, you know? He just had a way of doing it, and he had a way of writing it. And if you look at what he wrote, you can find a lot. It's like, of all the books the man wrote, it's funny, his non-committal towards the stone maps. He literally found a way to avoid that. and he found a great way of avoiding it in conversations too. And I'm sure that's from the lifetime of experience of dealing with it, where most people want to just take something head on and stop that. And Tom just had this finesse with things. And then when people would ask him to explain something, you got to remember Tom had a sense of humor. And God, he could send people on wild goose chases. So, but no. So I'm sure it was something Trap Canyon. And I think doesn't Ride Through Time start out. It's been a long time since I've read it, and I should read it again. But I think it starts out with him riding through the mountains, talking about, he's in the persona of James Colton, and as he's doing that, but that's Tom, and he's riding through kind of an imaginary trip through the mountains, talking about various places and stuff. But Tom did a lot of trips. He led a lot of expeditions and trips. Not necessarily always for him. I think I share with him, I'll say, more than him and I being alike. I don't think I'm at the same scale or anything like Tom. But I share with him that thing of anytime you're in the mountains is a good time. So a lot of times you spend time in the mountains that maybe is not the most fruitful, but it's always fun to be out in the mountains. And you get to meet a lot of interesting people. And it doesn't mean they become your best friends or you have fond memories of the trip. You learn from those trips. And I've shared some of those stories in Chasing Legends where not much came of it. And I kind of look back at it as like, but it's still a kind of a cool memory because I learned something from it for the future of how to look into things. So I always will say, hey, it's a friend of mine. I'll dig for him. I'll go out there. I'll hang out. I'll check things out. I'll check on things for people. But I do it differently than I did it, say, 20, 30 years ago. 20, 30 years ago, I was like, oh, you want somebody to do this? And there's people just couldn't do it. And I physically went out there, ran all over the mountains looking for other things for other people. And I kind of quit doing that because twofold, and this will address it for those people that kind of like send to me and go like, oh, I got the GPS coordinate, or oh, go down here, or I've seen this bleached skeletons of the Peraltas here. I've been through that enough that I want to go in the mountains where I want to go because I got only so much time left. And if you can convince me it's better than just blurry Google Earth, but a lot of times I look at it as I've wasted a lot of time and a lot of trips in the mountains going to nothingness. And then when I do that and I come back and tell you there's nothing there, you don't believe me. I'm not going to lie to anybody, If you say, I believe the Lost Dutchman's here are the GPS coordinates, and I physically go there, I'll take pictures, I'll look around, I'll take an ore sample, and if I come back and say that is not it, it has nothing, it was an old prospect, but people will get argumentative, they'll get upset, and they'll get very foul with you. And it's like, I stole all their gold. Yeah, I stole everyone's gold from the 52 Lost Dutchman mines in the last 10 years that people found. And so that got to be something of a headache. Everybody, and then there's the people who want me to invest. Everybody wants 10, 20 grand out of me. Just so they can, and sign an NDA so they can tell me where it is, the Lost Dutchman mine. Another thing over the last week or so, since we last talked, was I got a copy, and I'm kind of working through because I'm kind of on the fence about it. Maybe I'll read parts of it or read some of it. I have Travis Tomlinson's manuscript. Ooh, exciting. The man that found the stone maps in his own words, his own story, in his own manuscript. It's a piece of fiction. But, yeah, I have that. What is it called? Superstition's Gold or something like that, or Gold in the Superstitions. But anyways, I've been reading that and stuff, and then there was a follow-up interview with a number of people involved with the purchase of that manuscript and so forth, and I was reading that, and they had things really wrong on some of that. And then I realized, man, you can't get the truth for any amount of money or anything at any time. But I do have that, and I was sitting there and reading it this week. And it is kind of boring. It's kind of redundant, and you can tell where he was telling one story and then later managed to become a better storyteller. But it's interesting to some degree. So it was written as a piece of fiction, though. Would you be able to share what you feel are a few of the top or most reliable clues out of the thousands of clues? I think anything that Walt said, if you get the Jim Bark notes and look at that, I'd love to see whatever the 30 questions were that Jim Bark asked, what he thought was the most important. But I think the north-south trending canyon, and it appears that he's talking north-south trending canyon and Arroyo. It's a pit, obviously. It's like a funneled pit, sloped into the put into the slope. It goes down and then starts to curve and level out. I think that's definitely hard clues. I think the most important clues you got to look for, and this becomes the most difficult thing for everybody to understand, is he said no prospector will find the mine. There's no mineralization. There's no dump, which rules the two soldiers and some stuff out. And he says just there's no sign that there's a mine there. Kind of throws the Silver Chief out too as well. There's a lot of dumps around all those mines. But Walt said there's no sign, there's nothing there in the area that would bring a prospector in, which Silver Chief is in silver mine, gold mine area. And then additionally, he says no cowboy's ever going to find it because there's just no way. They won't get off their horses if they're chasing cows and stuff. They never could get close to it on horseback. You have to be on foot. So that's also very important. I think those are really good hard clues. Waltz, though, had a way, and Reinhard Petrasch and Julia Thomas couldn't have made it any more intriguing than when they said, Waltz told them, you have to find my camp to find the mine, but you can't find the mine without finding my camp, but you won't find the camp unless you know where my mine is. And he literally did double speak on that. And that's important because it tells you something. I think another thing I always read into it and watched very carefully was he could see the trail, whatever he called the military trail, but he said he could see the trail, could see that below where he came in. But he always talked about you had to go around and up and then back down to it. And then, so I found some spots like that, but it would be a very difficult place. And so you could go through the bark notes, and once we get that all posted, or you can go back where I read some of the bark notes because I did the Jacob Waltz section. Those are really good. There's a lot of made-up clues by a lot of Dutch hunters over the years. The Brownie Holmes clues tend to get mixed in with them, and people, it's like there's a rock face that overlooks the mine. But I tend to think it's something, and me and Ron Feldman had this discussion of saying, what could it be? But we both seem to feel that it could be like a rock face, a natural rock face, not something with eyes and nose and stuff oversighted. Then he talks about a bit of a waterfall, but it was probably seasonal. And if he was in there, he was 100% telling the truth. He said it completely hidden. He was correct. But yeah, it was supposed to be in a very, very difficult place. It's the Holmes story that has the bear trap and all this stuff being covered. The Apaches. Now you got to remember, there's a lot of Apache stories about the Peralta mines and about these Mexican mines in the Superstitions. And they covered, I think, 8 of the 9, and they said 8 were covered, but the 9th they left uncovered because it was in such a difficult place. Now, it's always surmised that was the Dutchman, and nobody knows how much Waltz covered things, and because he made, 2 trips after his partner supposedly dies, and he leaves the Dutchman. He goes back one time, check on things, grab, and I think he made 1 or 2 trips, and that was it. So how much time he spent there, because he didn't really want to spend time there by himself. But the Apaches, there's the story with, I think it's, is it Phil LaBarge? It's either Martin, Charlie Boy, or Phil LaBarge talk where they're hunting in Needle Canyon, and as they're walking through, an Apache said he saw them through there, and he said, you walk over $1 million, and you didn't even know it. And then he couldn't figure out where they'd been walking and what that could have been that they walked over. But it was believed that was one of those covered mines in there. So it's very, very interesting. So, you look at those stories. Those stories can be very important put together. Do you tend to believe that Walton Weiser found the mine from Peralta in Mexico? As the bark notes, the Mexican thing seems suspect to me. Well, you have to look at it as like everything southern Arizona was Mexico, so it wasn't the United States. And so there's a bit of confusion in that. It is odd. One of the odd things, and this plays into some people's thoughts of the period, is there was a Miguel Peralta. His family was involved in the mines of the Black Canyon and New River, but he also worked out of as a marketplace and a mercantile store through areas like Wickenburg, and Phoenix. And he did commit suicide. And that's where a lot of the guys with the New River Black Canyon version of the Dutchman go. But Waltz would have come down. He was traveling through the Bradshaws, coming down through the Hassayampa, and then from there, and as that group moved, then they came into Phoenix. So he could have crossed there, someone there. There's all sorts of different versions. I tend to think I'm getting sound. Okay, there's someone saying they're not getting sound. Okay. But there tends to be that thing of like the Holmes thing. Came upon these Mexicans, they showed him the mine, he offs them, and then he goes back and takes the mine. That story is just kind of like, I don't know. Because Julia Thomas and Reinhard Petrasch kind of told the story, and then Herman told the story, and then the problem becomes with the Dutchman story is each time someone tells it, someone thinks maybe they keep altering their story to what they've heard the latest thing is. So Herman's story, by the time he's dying, to some degree, starts incorporating things that Dick Holmes had been saying in the papers about the story forever. So it's really hard to say. The biggest problem with the Peralta story is that then you got to take the Irwin Ruth thing, and it ties into the Gonzalez family, and the Gonzalez family saying they had a couple maps that were in Arizona from their relatives, the Peraltas. And then you got to take the Peralta story and then say someone like Frank Fish, who found a map that obviously is placed in the Superstitions, and it came from a member of the Peralta family, and it's authentic. And then you take those things together and say, well, how did Reinhard Petrasch and Julia Thomas know about a Peralta? Because it wasn't like they had a great bunch of history books on the wall about Mexican history or Spanish and Mexican mining history. Catch the rest of this later. Okay, time for dinner. Have a good dinner. Yeah, go get your dinner. So that becomes one of those key points. So you always have to like back engineer things and look at things and then take parts of the story and say, because there's a lot of Dutch hunters that will be dismissive of one story or the other. And I always make the point is, okay, but how did this person know this? Because Julia Thomas is dead by 1917. Reinhardt died in the 30s. So before we get Barry Storm and Sim Zeeley and a lot of this stuff, and anybody ever heard of the Barknose, these guys are talking about a lot of information of like, how did they know that information it really existed? And so you have to go backwards and back engineer that and say, yeah, how did these two people, Reinhardt's family had come down from Colorado, Julia had come from Texas. They'd been in town for a number of years. Julia had been there at least for 5 or 6 years. But how do they know this Peralta backstory and some of this information? They seem to know things what they shouldn't have known. And then people say, well, Bark incorporated this stuff. I think someone once told me that Bark never met Waltz, never really knew Julia or Reinhardt or met any of them. And then that becomes kind of strange because they point out, like he calls her Helena in the thing. And then people say, well, that's her middle name. No, because what's strange is Jim Bark writes letters, and he talks about Julia Thomas in the letters to Sim Zeeley and Irwin Ruth and other people. When you read these letters, what really throws you off is he knows her name. He calls her Julia all the time, and Reinhardt, and he has everything perfectly in perspective that he seems to get wrong in the notes. So at the time he's writing the notes, he has all this other stuff. So we don't know the reason, if it was someone he gave the manuscript or the material to print up and type up and stuff, and they got stuff wrong, couldn't read his handwriting or thought something looked like it. We don't know because we don't have the original manuscript. But he knows her name is Julia Thomas. He knows she became Julia Schaefer. He's very aware of this stuff, and you read the letters, and he's very clear on, he knows who's who, how they spell their names, how old they were. So it's odd in the manuscript, so you have to believe he put something together. He had a lot of material, and that's why I always say, if the Spangler family was ever to give us the notes or a lot of the information, that early information that preceded the manuscript, that would do a lot for us. And I believe Bark dies around 1938, in the 1930s. So kind of the deal there is, Jim Bark had been working on that probably in the 20s and 30s. He passes away, then that material was used for Sim Zeeley to some degree, and he has a ghostwriter that adds to his. And so by the time you get Sim Zeeley's version, it's much different than Jim Bark's version. But I would stay with fundamental to somewhat of the tale no matter what. So I always kind of believe, and there's things I've seen between here and Prescott that really made it evident that Waltz had traveled a certain route, and I won't go into that in detail, but it's like I said when I talked about Albert Schaefer's grave and this whole story of the cult of Julia and Albert Schaefer and how the Israels were out there and they had this Morristown, this cult group, and all this stuff going on. And then I went out and checked everything, and Julia died. Albert didn't know what to do with himself. Shortly after, him and one of the people of the church, they kind of broke things up. They went out and lived in a shack along the Hacienda and did some mining, had a little bit of farming going there next to the river where it was probably above ground at that time too. And that's how all that kind of worked. And so, and the evidence was there. The shack's there, the graves are there and all. But it wasn't a cult group. And he's listed as a minister and a farmer. But he was farming and mining basically in the area. And he was by himself at the end. People would stop in and check on him and stuff. He wasn't as raving, as crazy as some people might have thought, even though he was to the end, because he said, keep me above ground for 3 days, boys, see if I come back. And they didn't. But at the same token, I mean, they came in, looked in on him, took care of him, and made sure he was buried properly. Hey, yo, Kim, how the hell are you? I'm doing fine. If you had unlimited funding in the legal crap covered, where would you dig? Search for the LDM, East, West, Central Slopes. Hey, hello everybody, and I'll get that in as I see a few people have joined us and all that. But Kim, I will tell you this. I will tell you in private exactly where I think those things are. But I will say this: Western Superstitions. So there's a couple places I've been to that, yes, if I had the money and the legal ability, I would really want to scrape some. There's some places I would like to scrape the ground and see what was going on there, because I've put so much time in. I've come across some things that has just puzzled me. And when it puzzles me, it's not that I'm saying it's where the Lost Dutchman is, but I'd like to see what's there, because there is something there. And I'd like to know, is it a spot where one of the Peralta mines was, or what could possibly be there? So that would be kind of like where I would be at. I would really want to check that and all this. So Kim, we'll talk about that. I think I probably told you and you just probably forgot because you're getting old. But yeah, we'll hook up. We'll see each other here in a few weeks. You should come out and do the highway cleanup. See, because we're going to do highway cleanup Sunday. You weren't there when we were doing camp cleanup last Saturday. Will Frank or Eric ever make the live show appearance? The Erics will. I can say that would happen. So I'm going to work on that. I wanted to give it a week in between, not saturate it too much. I think we're going to see Frank this weekend, and we'll try to set up his phone for everything for it and walk him through it, and maybe do a little kind of just between us little deal so he knows how to work it. I wish Woody would have had a little selfie stand to put his phone on and stuff, and there's certain things. Eric would be doing better, but it's definitely, I have to get a hold of them and their work schedules and then talk to them about it. So I wanted to give it a week break, get it back with DeLeo, find out when he could do it, and then touch base with Magnuson, and then see what his schedule's sometimes really tough, and then get them all in. I think once Frank did watch Woody's, he was into it. I mentioned that earlier. I think Frank will do it. I think he's not a friend. If technology's not his friend, and he's not friendly with technology. So, okay, you'll be there Sunday, Kim. Cool. Me and Frank and Trevor will. So, hope everything's fine. Okay. Hope to attend another of your lectures at the museum. Any dates planned? No, they didn't want me this year. They got Jesse. They put Teton Kennan twice, and the lame excuse I was given. Now you're gonna get me rolling. The lame excuse I was given, because there's no Dutch hunters except for Jesse in there. Thank you about Woody's show, and Woody thanks you as well. Was that they didn't want to have back-to-back years of the same people. I already had one or two ideas planned for something completely different, because I really think it's the Superstition Mountain Museum and the Lost Dutchman Museum, so it should be something about Dutch hunting in it, and I'm glad Jesse's doing it. Happy for him. It would be nice that we kind of made that more about that than talking about railroads and other bullshit. But they decided, I mean, Kim was there. He heard me. I did 2 lectures. I thought I did fine. We had, 800 to 1,000 people there. I thought it went down really well. People complimented. Nobody told me they had a problem with it. And then it seemed to be they had some sort of issue with me or something, or who cares about that. So the museum's back to that whole thing. And to be completely honest here, and I don't care if I burn bridges or I hurt feelings sometimes, because the thing that gets me is we use them. They got paid for the television show. They got the promotional stuff. They definitely got funding. They made money off of the television show and the tourism and everything to do with it. I've never heard a bad word from Bob Schuess about anything. Bob Schuess is always saying that thing was awesome. Everything was great. It went over perfect. I benefited for it. Schuess has always said thank you for it. The museum likes to call us fake and BS and all this stuff, but then they deal with a bunch of guys that sit around on a porch all the time talking about stuff, not real Dutch hunters. So it was really weird to me to kind of get that flack back. I got asked by some of the docents to come down, and I'm going to go down because they wanted to walk through the museum since it's been changed around, and for me to give them some pointers on stuff so when they walk through with people, they can talk to people, and I'm more than happy to do that. But the museum definitely, and I'm a member of the Historical Society, which is mind-blowing, but the museum itself keeps us at arm's length and pretty much seems to treat us like malcontents or martyrs or like we're homeless guys or some weird crap like that. Yeah, I've never received a thank you about everything we did. And then even when I tried to make the inroads, do the lectures, and do everything, and hope that I could direct things and get it back on the right path and bring in more people and bring in more on the Dutchmen, because I don't think they'll survive long term with an Elvis Chapel and Apache Land bar of a barn of a bunch of old movies. I thought move into the new millennial, and it just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So I don't know if next year, if something opens up this year, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I always want to do the right thing by the superstitions and the mountains and lectures and so forth. I just didn't get kind of the feedback I got of like, yeah, wow, you did a great job. We had a huge audience. Everything went really well. I got nothing but compliments and stuff, and people thought I would be there. I wouldn't replace certain people, but I was going to be kind of the guest lecturer that would be yearly for a while. And I was looking forward this year when I heard Jesse was speaking, because I thought, God, that would be so awesome that me and Jesse, if someone else, Jack Sanfelice, I don't know if he's going to be able to do lectures much anymore. I don't know if Clay's willing to, and so forth. So we need to fill those holes. And I thought that'll be really cool. Me and Jesse, and see if they find someone else, the next generation of Dutch hunters doing the lectures, and they seem to not want to do that. So that was kind of the long-winded version of that. So there you go. Greetings from Apache Junction. Yo. Hope all is doing good. They're very slow to reopen Apache Trail. I don't think they're going to open Apache Trail. I think they're going to let that go too. Everybody forgets. I hope we can keep the peace. Dutch hunters. Yeah, we always keep the peace. Everybody has a gun. It's the mountains' loss. Probably not you said. Well, the Tom Collenborn's idea to found the museum and the Historical Society. He's the first president and CEO of the whole thing, and then they can't recognize Tom for everything he's done for the communities and so forth. Yeah, well, they should put a statue there. And if I win the lottery, I'm going to build a statue. I'm going to put it right in their frickin' driveway where they can't move it. I'm going to bolt it down into the ground. But, hey, he's the reason they're there, and they can sell and do what they want to do and sell out. But, see, that's my bitterness coming out. It's not a conflict with the museum. It's just the museum has never been very warm towards us. And I will say this, God, I forget his name now, Johnson. There were people that were friendly to us. I know Shirley Lawrence was still there. Sandy Maxwell was in there. Greg Davis still was active when he was the president and in there. That was before the TV show. But they were far more open to us. They wouldn't even, I left them posters one year for the rendezvous, and nobody of the people that worked there knew anything about it. So they didn't even, hey, Trevor, feeling better? Cool. But Trevor's joined me finally. But yeah, it's not a conflict. It's like they don't want anything to do with the Lost Dutchman Mine or Dutch hunters or the people that know the history and the people. I mean, I'm in the archives all the time. I've talked to people at the museum. I've talked to people in the board of directors. They've been like, yeah, I went there and looked through the archives once. I've been through the archives hundreds of times, and I still haven't been that far in depth about it. So, do you know anything about Roy Ray. Oh, it's Ray Highland. Finding gold by government well, not offhand. So sorry. I wish I could say something. I probably do and just can't remember. Trevor does.
I have a question.
Oh, Trevor has a question.
You think I've been in the archives more than some of those people?
What? Yeah, Trevor's been in the archives more than most of the people at the museum. Yeah, more and more because he's become the computer whiz for Greg. We weren't going to have a guest speaker because I wanted to kind of put a week in between each one. So next week will probably be Delilah Magnuson. Maybe I'll have Trevor post when I hear who that person will be again. So figure it's Delilah Magnuson. I doubt it'd be Frank that quick. By the way, just so everybody knows, when we brought up the idea of the statue and stuff like that, Shu said, put it in Goldfield. He had no problem immediately. If you guys want to put a statue up, we can get the money raised. We'll build the statue. And the idea of the statue that Kim's talking about is I was very adamant there should be a statue of Tom Collenborn, life-size, on his horse Crow with his dog Duke beside him. And that should be the statue. He set the path. He did more than probably anybody could or ever would. For Patchy Junction as well. I mean, the man entering Patchy Junction, name Patchy Boulevard, rename that sucker Collenborn Boulevard. His dad and Tom did more for that town than anybody else. And I mean, he taught their schools, he lectured, all the stuff with the Superstition, the museum, and everything, and the friendships he made there. And it makes me a little sick that they so quickly forget someone and didn't definitely honor the man properly when he was alive. So you get that bitter thing out of me. No, Apache Trail's not too much to maintain. They just don't want to bother with it. Apache Lake's done for. Nothing's happening there. People go around to Roosevelt. The longer they wait to try to do anything with the road, the more they're not going to be able to do anything. The lower section down after you get by the bridge is really bad shape. And then there's a few really bad spots on the upper edge. I don't think they just really want to bother with it. They just don't think it's a worthwhile project. And they got other things they want to do. I don't think the economy's great for it and all. But yeah, very surprising. They haven't even done anything to try to keep it from getting worse. They've just done nothing. It's just sitting there completely. You think they would have moved the boulder, a couple of the boulders, or at least try to do some infill to stabilize it. But I think they're hoping, and literally I hate to say this, but I really hope that they're just trying to let it fall into worse shape so they can't bring it back at all. Turning away the resources of historical information. They don't even, I don't even want to get into some of the ridiculousness of that stuff. They revamped the museum, and I liked what they did, but they took away they made it more about the Superstition Mountains, and now they're building an Apache village, which that was a much later era. They're not, I would have been more welcome to the idea of them doing a Salado or a Hohokam type village type thing in the area, but instead it's going to be an Apache village. It sounds like they don't know their history of the mountains. And they got the books sitting in there, and they have a little library in the back where all the docents and people can read a lot of the books. And they got some good books in there. And it sounds like they don't know what they're talking about. And if you ever hear them talking to the public and you know what you're talking about, you sometimes just want to scream and just run out of there because it's absolute ridiculousness. And Liz Nicholas, one of the people, I know she was a board of director. I don't know if she was the president. She talked about, we have the Bilberry Stone maps. They were part of the copies they made, and I've done a history on that. Rich Robinson made the first generations and so forth, and then Jim Hatt bought some and made his own generations from those, of the crosses and the stone maps. Rich Robinson said he never made Bilberry maps, and I got a whole history workup on all that stuff and all. And rather than go into the archives and delve through all that stuff and all, they found some of the replicas, and then they made a video about it. And I'm like, God, why would you do something so stupid? So that probably gets me another mark against me. The Collenborn statue was a great idea. It's a proper idea. If I won the lottery, what is it, $350 million, and I had that kind of money, there would be one of Larry Hedrick, and there would be one of Greg Davis with his feather in his cap. There'd be one of Clay Worst next to his burro. I don't know what Ron Lorenz's would look like, but I'd have statues of all those guys life size out there because that was a gigantic thing of 5 guys sitting around coming up with the idea and being able to do what they did with the land and build that museum. That was 5 guys in their spare time. So, fun stealth project, yeah. So anyways, but yeah, don't get me. See, this is why I can't do lectures anymore, because you get me going and then one of them stop in to see how we're doing. And then next thing you know, they're like, we can't have Wayne in anymore. He's a loose cannon. He gets up there, because I'll say whatever I want in front of people. And I said that the next year or so, they should have that statue. They should have put it behind the lecture area, right behind me. Kimmel, was set in stone. I said, I hope by this time next year they'd take the money. But they got to maintain the railroad, and they got to build the Apache Village. And, they're supposed to be building some archive building, but it's going to have it's not going to be what I think it should be, they should have a library archive building that has a docent that volunteers. You can make appointments, and then all the records and all the stuff should be able to move there. They're not even building a building, even though only a third of the building is going to be devoted to that. They're not even building a building big enough to hold the archives that's in existence today. So it's a shame that everything has went the way it has. And, eventually they're just going to be on the losing end. And I worry what's going to happen to these archives as time goes by, because generation to generations run about 25 years. In the next 25 to 50 years, some of these large archives are going to be pared down. Stuff's going to be thrown out. A lot of bad things are going to happen. So we don't need a GoFundMe. We need to just build our own museum. Yes, you did. And I was Kim, I was probably about as bitter as I am right now. I wasn't very happy because I wanted them to do it right. And what other YouTubers, gold prospectors you watch? I don't even know the names of some of the guys I watch, because I'll just kind of see something and it'll pick my interest and I'll jump over. I'll watch someone for a little while, like probably everybody does, and then I kind of get tired of watching their videos. I'll watch the people that live in the vans or the trucks, traveling around. Then I realize how stupid and phony that is. But I'll watch it because they have dogs. Whitey's World. It's about a dog. He's an Aussie cattle dog. Whitey's World. Trevor does the editing for them and stuff, and they got some cool stuff. They do little balloons where the dog's telling you stuff. It's very cool. But I'll watch different things, and kind of YouTube. I don't really. I tend to kind of catch something that's kind of out of the ordinary. So I always look for things that are different. It's not necessarily mining or prospecting or this or that. It can be just something I just kind of clicks with me, and I just find kind of like, oh, that's kind of neat. What's that about? Then I'll watch it at car racing at the fair tomorrow night. Okay. Yeah, it's weird how the fair has tribute bands this year. We are not having live acts still. We're going to have tribute bands. And it just seemed very weird the way they promoted that. But anyways, so again, yeah, YouTube's strange, because I'm just trying to think, like even today when I looked at some stuff, what I was looking at. And it'll be a number of different things. I mean, it'll be someone's lecture on Tesla or on Schrodinger's cat. It'll be things on physics. It'll be things on different theories, different odd things.
You like podcasts a lot, don't
Well, I like podcasts too. Yeah, I'll find some subject matter and listen to. I'll listen to podcasts till I realize everybody's telling me the same dopey information, and they sound like they're a bunch of 22-year-olds just goofing off. And then I hate the other ones, because then the other one I really hate is everybody that has to talk with the really like long, drawn-out English accent. And I'm like, are you really even English, or are you just pretending? So, it's a great idea. Yeah, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah, get the land, just build another museum. And then have Greg Davis be the president, the founder of the museum, be the president of the new museum. But yeah, Thomas J. Collenborn, Research Center and Museum. There you go. Put it right next to the museum. But anyhow, I'm just getting myself in more and more trouble. PC Bicknell printed the clues. Okay, yeah. I don't always. I was doing, I know a lot of people go into the PC Bicknell thing. Got to remember, PC Bicknell, for all that, the newspaper article about PC Bicknell was in 1895, and Waltz died in 1891. And then Julia, the first article about Waltz is when he dies in 1891. The first article is about the Lost Dutch Miner, 1892, 93, 94. That's all that stuff. But yeah, so with PC Bicknell, you got to remember he was out there searching for the Soldier's Mine, for the Doc Thorne Mine. He separated all those, and then the Dutchman stuff comes in, and I've been just trying to get back in, but I was researching by going back to the original newspaper articles. The first one's in the San Francisco Chronicle talking about some of his stuff. But he was just a really rich guy that had a lot of money that liked to go out and search for lost mines. He wasn't necessarily at that point trying to do journalism. He never tried to write a book or anything. He was just out there having fun. And I think there's a lot of confusion because there was a lot of people said, well, PC Bicknell was back in Rogers Canyon and But that's where he was chasing like the Two Soldiers Mine. And most people do not believe the Two Soldiers Mine was there, but he definitely believed that's where it was. And then there's a later newspaper article where he talks about the Doc Thorne Mine is definitely here. Well, we know Doc Thorne wasn't even there. So there you go on that. So I'm just starting to look back through it. I think there'll be this great lecture, and we'll see if we can get a copy of it or something, but it will be done at the Dons, for the Dons, a presentation, Greg Davis, and I believe Jack Carlson on PC Bicknell. After I review it and see what it is, maybe we'll have them do it and film it and put that out. I'm talking to Trevor, who's joined me again, but I'm just not talking to space. But maybe we'll do that because I'm curious what they came up with PC Bicknell and some of that stuff. I'm going to stir the pot. The original museum they went to build in Goldfield, and it was a partnership where it was like, I don't know, 50 cents a ticket, and 25 cents went to Shoes and his historical society, Goldfield Historical Society. 25 cents of that 50 cents went to the Superstition Mountain Museum. Bob said he felt that way they could make money. It gave them a place to start with until they could get everything built up to get their own property and get their own building underway. The problem was they were nitpicky and created, and there was a lot of problems and issues, and they were supposed to be there for so long, and he kept allowing them to stay longer, and they weren't getting out, kind of like, just someone taking advantage of you at that point. And I hate to put words in all their mouths, but they felt they got Shoes, that Shoes screwed them, and Shoes felt like, and I believe Bob's story because I've heard both, I think he was trying to be as fair as possible to him, and he wanted his own museum back for his stuff. He wanted to, and they didn't want to move their stuff, and that was kind of the problem. And then they finally got their own land, and then they basically acted like Shoes them, and it was stupid. I mean, they should have been very happy everything he did for them, and I don't think he holds anything against them. He sees them as just another gateway that brings people in. Far more people go to Goldfield than go to the museum, so therefore, there you go. In Weimar, Germany, you could buy a house with 1 ounce gold coin. Well, there you go. It's where we are going with inflation. Well, then I should buy houses with gold coins. Claywurst has some property for sale at, and donate to the new museum. It's on the wrong side of the road for them. And part of the tunnels are under Goldfield, so it's not even it. So I see new gold boom count coiny. Used to train before I service in the Superstition Mountains. Okay. God, then everybody starts asking questions all of a sudden. I'm trying to catch up. Anyways, Clay has been trying to sell the Wasp off and on for years and years. I don't know who owns the Wasp. I'm pretty sure he still owns it. But he was trying to sell it. I know a couple of times someone was going to buy it, and then he starts working it, and he's out there working it again. They're finding some gold, and then he's selling it again. I don't know. I haven't talked to Clay recently, so I have no idea what he's doing with the Wasp. And I try to stay out of that because that's almost a business function of his, and I just try to have good conversations with Clay that are about, when we talk, it's generally about the Dutch hunters and the psychology and what does he think about their stories and different stuff. We talk about it and that. I like to hear him tell his stories, but then we also talk about time in the mountains and how we feel about certain things. It's a different conversation. Not necessarily. It's probably interesting to people that are into it. To people on the outside, it may be kind of like, well, it's just two guys talking. Used to hike to the top every other day. Something else really, love those mountains. There, that's cool. Okay, what? Oh. Seeing that Arizona has set aside $125 million to incentivize future Arizona film. Yeah, good chance on that. Okay, let me explain something. They've set aside $125 million. Ain't crap. God, incentivize. They did that before, and here's part of the problem. The Arizona Film Commission, you got to get permits to film in the Tonto National Forest, out in the wilderness area and all this stuff. You can just do it, but they want you to get permits. And then people go get the permits, and then people just should be able to go film. But then you get involved, there's certain people out there that buy the permits. So then they say, well, there's no permits. So there's a scam where you go in and you can't film in certain areas because other people bought all the permits. There's not that much filming going on that everybody else should own the permits. So what happens is when somebody inquires, someone else alerts someone else to buy the permits. Then they can go to you and say, yeah, well, you can piggyback on my permit. And the Forestry Service will even tell you that. We have no permits, but you can piggyback on this guy. And I just happen to have his number right now. He's willing to work with you. And that happens on every film crew that comes in. It's why Beyond Oak Island filmed in Goldfield Ghost Town and worked with Shoes and did not go into the National Forest and all. As soon as they start touching base with these guys try to screw them. And I know who the person is, and he's one of the main people. And I'm not going to say his name because he's a dirtbag. But we had to run into him and deal with him before. And he knows who he is. And I think he's just a scumbucket. And he tries to tell the film crews where they'll shoot. Tries to keep getting more money out of them. He throws hissy fits like a little girl out there when things aren't going his way. I should have beat his ass back then. God, I'm sorry. See, everybody's getting stirred up on Friday. But that guy was a piece of work. And Frank gave him, at least blasted him, and Frank got fired from Unexplained and Unexplored for it.
You gotta talk about how he pretended to know you and then he...
Oh yeah, this is a guy, we walk in and he talks to everybody, and he told them he knew me and Frank, and he knew everybody. He knew Bob's Shoes. Him and Bob went way back and were good friends, and he knew me and we knew each other really well and all this shit. So we go into Goldfield Ghost Town. We go to the Mammoth Saloon. The guys from Unexplained Unexplored are there, and the producers and stuff, and they sit down at a table. And we're sitting there, and we're waiting for Shoes to come in, and the producers were just coming in. This guy was sitting at the table at the time, being very quiet. And I didn't know who the hell he was. And Frank got up to use the toilet. So Frank got up, walked off to use the bathroom. I'm sitting there, and the producer sat down, and this guy had the gall to do introductions. And he introduced them to Bob Shoes, and then he introduced them to me, but he said he'd make the introduction as soon as I got back from the bathroom because Wayne just went to the bathroom. And I realized I was next up, and I was going to be Frank. And I said, I'm Wayne Tuttle. And then I got really uncomfortable, and I was like, you don't effing know who I am. And then afterwards, they quietly told me, he said he knew all you guys. And that's when Shoes told them, I don't know the guy. I've met him a couple times. He bought some firewood off me once. I don't know this guy for crap. The guy's a piece of work. And yeah, then he said he was a Don. We told the film crew if they wanted to film, we had the keys to the Don's camp. We'd call the Dons and make sure it was no problem, and they could go down there and use that as a film site with the Dayside Cliffs in the background. And this guy got into the conversation and made this whole big deal. He's a Don, and he could get them in, and he can, there's a fee for it and all this stuff. He was trying to make money off of them going to the place we were offering for free. And then me and Frank pointed out, we're Dons. We've never seen you. We've never heard of you. You're not. Well, guess what happened about 3-4 months later? He made an application to the Dons. And guess what happened after that? He didn't become a Don because the Dons have to approve you. Sorry, buddy. So that guy was a piece. But that's part of the problem with the filming industry there is you got guys like that just absolutely just... They just ruin everything. There should be people filming all the time out that way. And there used to be, and there isn't because of guys like him. He's actually killing himself by what he's doing. And, you know, he's just a low-life piece of scum. Okay. I should have thrown him off a cliff when I had the chance. Okay. God, you guys are getting me all fired up today. I must be in a bad mood. It's those mountains. Mark for campgrounds are reserved on the internet. Da, 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 da. Okay, well, for me, you almost need a permit to go dig a hole in your own yard. You probably do. Oh, yeah, there's a story. I have a neighbor. His name was I'm not going to say his name on the radio, but anyways, he was doing something in his backyard. He had a construction company, and he did a little bit of trenching and stuff because he was going to put in some foundations. He was putting in some driveways because he had some equipment he wanted to put in, and he wanted to put thicker cement in so it didn't crack, because it was like, it wasn't a backhoe or anything, but it was some heavy equipment he was going to store back there. And the city of Surprise literally knocked on his door and asked him what he was building in his backyard, because they were taking the satellite photos or aerial photos of the city, and they saw he was digging in the yard, and they came in and asked him if he had permits and do that and stuff. So there you go. They probably take $100 million in wine and dine each other in Paradise Valley. Have some pizza and beer to calm you down. I don't know, man. Now I'm stirred up, man. So, anyways, yeah, that guy, man. I want to say his name so bad, but I won't, because he doesn't even deserve that. But yeah, he deserves. You know, I haven't seen him for a long time. Hopefully, something bad befell him, because he just was a bad person, an awful person. Just a crappy personality, and I was the positive one. He really got Frank going, so Frank laid into him. But yeah,
You remember what he got Frank going on, right?
What?
You remember how he got Frank going, right?
Yes, he told Frank he didn't know what he was doing.
No, didn't he tell Frank that he was good friends with Tom?
Yeah, he was friends with Tom. He was friends with this person and that person. Yeah, the guy was just a bullshit artist. That's why you start digging jobs on Saturday and Sunday night. Camo netting everywhere. At least beer screw. The pizza, the museum could use some new doings going on. Museum could use a lot of people, even the guys about the aliens and crap like that. The thing is variety is fine, long as the variety has to do with the subject matter. And there are plenty of people I would turn them on to that would be kind of, maybe people would think they're a bit wacky and all, but it would be interesting from different perspectives, because you have to remember there are a handful of pathological liars in the community, in anything. But there are a lot of people that fully 100% believe in what they believe. And those people are fine with me. I'm fine when those people get up there, and even though they're out there on a bender and the research is bad or whatever I might think or whatever, they believe in it wholeheartedly. I'm cool with those guys because they really believe it. You may not be able to turn them around, but they believe it. That's completely different than someone who's just a pathological liar, which that guy is, and there's a few others. And we're not going to... Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do the outing show where I out a lot of those guys. Back in the day, Wayne charged super low hourly rates digging per the video. So, what was that? I didn't get it.
It was from that one video where you were talking about when the... oh, God, what was the name of the video? The guy... Hold on.
I don't even know if you can hear Trevor. He's talking over here.
Let me look up the video.
He's looking up the video that you're referring to.
Was
I don't even remember what I did.
Gold.
Fool's Gold? That wasn't that long ago. That was only a couple weeks ago. What do you... I've lost my mind.
It was when you talked about there was the old guy out there. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I never charged anybody for anything. Always.
It was like they gave you like what?
Oh, they were paying me for that one. Well, that was gas money though. They were paying me for the gas money to drive out. I wasn't getting paid to dig. I don't think anybody's ever paid me to dig. But I would, sometimes people would offer you, say, hey, for your gas money and stuff, we'll have chow here, and then we'll help you with the gas money if you can come out and stuff, all that. So, and it was even better, and I never really had anybody wanted to come with me, but they said if you can find a buddy or two that would help, that'll be cool. So that was that. Yeah, I never, if I'm interested, I'm all in for it and stuff. If it's good people and stuff, But yeah, everybody got me wound up today. I'm having one of those days. So sometimes you just feel a little more edgy about things and let loose. You should hear when me and Frank get into this kind of mode together at the same time, man. It becomes pretty it becomes fun because, yes, we point out how messed up the world is. And we figure we just need to pack up and get out of here. But anyways, yeah, we've been out here. We've been a good hour, so we've done our time. So we put that in. Thanks. There was some good questions in there. I thought we got a really bit of a slow start. I wish we would have done Magnuson or DeLeo because I think that's always fun because it takes the heat off. Tonight's show, Wayne gets pissed. I didn't get pissed. I just got stirred up. Yeah. Get Frank, get him riled up. Yeah, you don't want to get. We'll get Frank riled up. Trust me. But that'll be for not children. That'll be for audiences and NC-17 program there. Maybe even an NC-21. But yeah, it's if I get pissed, man, you don't want to be there for that. Monitors would be missing right now. It's best, I'm just someone that you don't want to get pissed. But we all adults. I don't know. I've seen Woody and Frank do some pretty immature crap. But Frank right now is in his tub going, what? But 14 days in 60-degree cell with no blankets and just a blue dress. Oh, that's a blue dress. Your name's Mr. Nobody, and you're wearing a blue dress. They made me sleep on the concrete. It's Mr. Nobody, and they were thrown in jail for 4. I'm thinking Mr. Nobody's a guy, but he was thrown in jail for 60-degree cell for 14 days with no blankets and just a blue dress. I don't know. That caused me to pause. I am a guy. Okay. I've been there, I guess. I don't know if I ever drank that much, but yeah, that was a blue dress. I don't know. Okay. Then, hey, it's a new world. See you Sunday, Trevor. Are you done with your documentary? Documentary is done. I'm trying to figure out. It's been trying to go into some film festivals and stuff. Maybe a special screening at the Rendezvous. So if anybody wants to know, too many laws. There are too many laws. But Trevor may be screening that at the Rendezvous. So it's probably best not to ask. Yeah, but I always do, don't I? I always kind of start asking questions and then I go, shit. Then that moment comes where you say, hey, pass the bottle. But we can't do that right here, Or you got to take a piss and then I just walk away. They made you wear a blue dress. We need it in today, and that's... yes. So, anyhow, thank you for everybody for joining us on the Rendezvous the 4th, 5th, and 6th of November. I'm going to keep pounding on that, and we'll probably try to get some TikToks and little short videos and stuff going out. Try to get a nice crowd this year. That amphitheater holds close to 2,500 people, and we get about 100, 150 to 200 people. It doesn't seem... It would be nice for Saturday night to have a really good crowd in there for Jesse. It'd probably be intimidating, but it would be awesome. Discretion is the better part of valor. They torture in our jobs. Okay, and their jails. Anyhow, so that being said and done, yes, I'm off to Pizza Land. But catch up the videos. We'll have a new one up for Chasing Legends. We'll try to get something going with Frank and get some TikToks and stuff. If you do, check the TikToks. The TikToks are Legend of the Superstition Mountains, right? Superstition Mountains. You can find it.
Superstition Mountains or LOTSM.
Okay, LOTSM or Superstition Mountains. You can find some of the TikToks and find the TikTok channel, which is cool. It's some of the most of this content we've had on the other stuff and funny clips and stuff or informational stuff. And there we go. So that's that. Always, we got stuff on Instagram and then, of course, the stuff on Facebook. But most everything in YouTube and here comes through YouTube. Everybody have a really wonderful weekend and enjoy yourselves. Be safe. The weather's getting cooler out here, so I know I'll be starting to peek out and have some fun. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, okay? And everybody, and thank you everybody for the well wishes and stuff as you continue to go as I try to wrap up. But always remember that I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. And I'm not wearing a blue dress today. And thank you very much, Mr. Nobody. Hope I find something. So I found peace of mind until today, and then I lost it. But until the next time, everyone take care. This was What is it? What did I call this? Legends Live?
Legends Live, sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're calling it. Legends Live, whatever. Okay, so that's it. And then I got to find my mouse because, see, we can't end these things properly. I need to. So what do I do to hit done streaming? You don't have to come in and stop streaming. I found it.
No,
and then
no,
you
it's
peek.
over here. You gotta minimize this.
Got a minute. Okay, get your finger out of there. I can't see it.
Okay. Click that.
Okay.
And now I click end stream.
Oh, so now. Okay, so now we're going to get out of here. I lost the chat, so I can't see what anybody's saying. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you again next week. We'll have a special guest. I'll find somebody. You know, somebody's going to be in here with me. So we'll do it again. It's going to be Eric DeLille, Eric Magnus, and Frank Augustine, or someone else even special. A lot of special people I know. So until then, take care. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching us.